Hey, how's it going? This is Unique here. Welcome. Listen, you probably came from my post, talking about how I pivoted into tech, like 150K plus jobs without an MBA. You're probably wondering, like, how the hell that happened. But I can tell you, I didn't go back to, get a degree or go back to school. I didn't like apply endlessly to jobs. I didn't, wait for recruiters to come and respond right to job applications. What I did do differently was just kind of like navigate the game, and it's just a very different way, like understanding that basically, tools like LinkedIn is a place for you to get found, right? And when you build a brand and you find a way to attract recruiters and hiring managers to you, everything changes. And I think a lot of people are spending, a lot of time applying to jobs, like, updating their resumes and so on. And it's just really the old way. And so let me kind of like, share my screen, walk you through a little bit like, the 5-step framework that I've used to be able to kind of like pivot into tech without an MBA. Let me do that right here. Boom. There you go. And so one of the things here, let me just kind of make sure I mute. I don't get disturbed. Boom, there you go. So one of the things here, right? Let me go. Is I guess I grew up in the DC area. I started my first job really kind of like at Enterprise Rent a Car, renting cars out, earning 35K. Let me see if I can go even like a little bit. Boom, there you go. I took a couple of notes just because figured out it'd be easier for you to kind of follow. But my first job was at Enterprise Rent a Car, like as a trainee, renting out cars, mirrors with insurance and GPS and car seats and so on. And that was it, right? That was back in 2010, 2011. I was earning 35K, and then I made a pretty big pivot into tech, right? As an account executive in B2B software sales at Dell in Washington D.C., and I was a big pivot from earning 100K a year, right? Selling disaster recovery software to SMB professionals, right? So that was absolutely nuts, right? Doing that at Dell, and I'm gonna talk to you exactly about how I did that, right? But that's just really want to walk you through this so that you understand my background. Then I made another big pivot, right, to basically jump to LinkedIn in San Francisco, earning about 135K. I had no connections, no marketing background. I didn't know anyone in Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area. Networked, right, and I learned how to position myself and learn how to transition to product marketing, and that's me right here, right, and working on one of the best companies in the world and arguably one of the biggest and best and toughest markets to get into. Then I made another big leap as a global product marketing director at a unicorn startup in Paris, earning about 150K. And this is really big, right? This is where, you're moving from being an individual contributor to kind of, leading teams, influencing go-to-market strategy, international expansion, moving from like one product to multiple product, from one country to multiple countries. Absolutely amazing time building a team and taking the company to unicorn. Then came another big leap to become a VP of marketing in Barcelona in Spain, earning over 250K, right? And so this career trajectory is basically, from about a little less than 7 years to be able to go from 35K to 150K, right? And that's really what I really want to talk to you about, because the key takeaway here is that I didn't really start over. I did compete on qualifications. I basically found a way to rely on my existing experience, and I think that's what I'll show you right now. Let me kind of shift to the iPad here. But one of the things I've noticed is that most professionals will chase job titles, right? And the thing is that you have to chase business problems, because and all these different points, like startups are raising money, they're either at the early stage where they're trying to improve the product and build a business, or they've proved the product market fit and they're now trying to scale and acquire more customers, or they've reached like even more scale and they're trying to now expand internationally. And so there are different points where they need specific players, and it's just about figuring out like what are the problems that the company has and how do you position yourself for it. So for example, let's say if you're coming from real estate, right? And well, you'll have a company that has building a software for real estate agencies or real estate professionals, and you position yourself with like real estate background is perfect, because you can literally help a company or startup solve that problem, because you know the market very well. You've either been the customer or been someone who's been selling to that customer. You have so much industry knowledge that is super relevant, regardless if you've been in sales or not in sales. It doesn't matter, right? So it's just about understanding the skills that you already have. Or let's say like you've been a teacher, building classes and educating students and so on. Well, it's the same thing. If you pivot into a company that's focused on selling software to higher education or things like that, it's an opportunity for you to leverage the skills you have. Or let's talk about a specific function. Let's say you have retail sales experience, right? How do you position yourself to be able to kind of like, hey, get into a sales job, because you already have the experience, right? Another one is like, If you have experience teaching, like another role that's really interesting is customer success in startups, because like they basically want to make sure that we can train customers to be successful, right? And so it's just about understanding what problems do customers have that you can solve, and how do you leverage the skills you already have to do that. The second thing is that most professionals focus on resumes, but the thing is, like helping you build relationships, and that's really what's going to be the big play here when you're looking to pivot in these startups. Let me share my screen one more time. But like, is it's very easy. So there's a couple of things. One is when you are, let's say you're, let's do this real quick live. Let's say you're looking for an account executive job. There's a couple of things you can do. One, it's very easy because sometimes you can actually see who's a recruiter for a role. You can, open a new tab right here. You can look at, who they are, things like that, and actually directly reach out to them. You basically message her, or you can even connect, and then you can add a note and say, hey, I've just saw you for Logic. I actually come from retail. I come from XYZ. Definitely looking to learn more about the experience there and the problems you're looking to solve. Right? These are very easy things you can do. Relationships in tech is, let me go. Times if you're on LinkedIn, you can actually see the people that already work at that company, and it's very easy for you to reach out to them and be like, hey, Shane, I saw you working at Stripe, and I saw they have actually a new role. I'm actually interested. Would you be open for a quick chat just to understand more about the company, more about like the culture, the objectives you guys have? And then, you get on the call with Shane, you learn more about the experience, then Shane might actually introduce you to the hiring manager. And so understanding how you build really the right jobs is exactly what you need to do. Now, let me switch one more time here and here you go to me, the iPad. So the thing is that the other piece that I see is a lot of professionals waiting to be qualified. And it's honestly, it's kind of what I said earlier. You can wait all day long, but most of the times it's like you need to focus on what are the skill sets and experience that you have that could be relevant. For example, when I pivoted into product marketing at LinkedIn in San Francisco, I didn't have marketing or product marketing experience at all, and I was pivoting into one of the best companies in the world, in one of the most Francisco. But what I did have was I had B2B sales experience, and the challenge that LinkedIn had at the time is that they were growing obviously really fast, expanding internationally, but there was also a lot of competitors coming in, Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, Monster.com, and so on. And their sales rep at LinkedIn started having difficulties with like how to sell, kind of an expensive license of LinkedIn Recruiter. And so one of the biggest pain points they had is how do you retrain and reskill their existing sales teams? How do you make sure that you help us launch new products, position it to be, better in the market, and train our sales team to be successful? I didn't have product marketing experience, but I knew LinkedIn very well as a product, and I knew sales very well. And so that helped me actually position myself as an asset to be able to get into LinkedIn. And so these are the kind of things that you really want to understand how to do. So let me kind of go on ahead and share my screen one more time and walk you through kind of like, a condensed version of the things that you want to be working towards. Here you go. So first thing is when you're looking to pivot, I've kind of alluded to this, but I wanted to make sure that I have it down as notes so it's very easy for you to digest. Step one is you're going to want to make sure that you find what is it that you have, the skills that you have that you can align to startups, pain points, like I just mentioned. Second thing, their sales teams having issues, all these different things, you have to find out what are the pain points and how do you strategically position yourself to get into that role. It doesn't matter if you're coming from retail, from aerospace, from teaching, higher education. There's so many ways that you can leverage your existing skills to get in that role. The second thing is that you're going to want to bypass the application process, because by default, you don't come from, software, or you don't come, from B2B or B2C or whatever. You're pivoting into it, right? And so one of the things you're going to want to do, obviously you want to have a great resume, and I'll walk you through that, but in another training. What's important is that you'll need to make sure that like you bypass it. You leverage LinkedIn, you go on here, company, or you directly message to the recruiter right there, and that will give you a much better odds, because you have the opportunity to tell your story, to actually show that you know the market, you know the customer, or you have the skill set, right, that you can add value. That's going to help you bypass the application where you have about 500 people that are applying for a job, and then you're going to be the number 501, and you don't actually have the experience on paper that they're looking for. They're just going to like disqualify you right away. The third thing is that you're going to want to learn how to basically speak the startup language, right? You shouldn't talk about how you taught classes, or you tell sales at Nordstrom or something like that. You're going to have to be very specific. Like, hey, I've been, even if you're in sales and retail sales, hey, I've sold over, $10,000 worth of sales, helping the business basically grow, 20% in the last 6 months. Whatever it is, right? But you have to understand how to speak the language of startups, which is basically growth, impact, speed, right? Same thing if you've been teaching. Hey, yeah, I've been basically teaching classes of over 600 students over the past 6 months. Success rates by 20%. Metrics that are important for you to focus on and tell your story, because startups think in metrics. As long as you can tell a story that you had X problem, you did X action, and then there was X results, and you have KPIs to show, you're already speaking the startup lingo, even if you're coming from a different industry. The fourth thing is to optimize your resume. You know, obviously, how to optimize your resume. That's basically when I was, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I won't go into it now, but if you go into my LinkedIn profile and I go back to management training, I had to go back and actually change how, let me do it so you can actually see it, right? I love to show instead of tell. So give me a quick second. Let me go to my specific profile here. And I think that will give you a quick understanding. So this is me coming on my LinkedIn profile, right? And let me kind of zoom in so you can see that. And so what I was saying is that, like, I would go back in my previous experience and make sure that I'm speaking the language of startups, right? And so instead of just saying, hey, yeah, I was RARS and blah, 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 like I was saying, hey, I ranked basically top 10%, and you can say whatever it's like top 25, top 30, even top 30, I think is even, you're still among the top because you're still over like 2/3 of the rest of the population. But like ranked in the top management trainees, led the office in sales, increased the fleet of cars by 16%, improved relationships with Audi, Volkswagen, Geico, right? And so just kind of like really making sure that you're speaking in the startup language way, because that's going to make you already seem like you understand the game, right? Last but not least is kind of like master the pivot mindset. Right? Stop waiting, right? You got to make sure that you start positioning yourself to get hired. And so that's getting online, that's, writing posts on LinkedIn sometimes, but it's just making sure that like you're thinking about how do you position your existing skill sets. And so that's pretty much what I've done, right? I've basically created a course that that's taken everything I've learned across my entire career working across companies like LinkedIn, like Dell, companies like unicorn startups in Paris, hypergrowth organizations in Barcelona, and really kind of like putting everything together as to how do you pivot into, startups and tech companies earning 6 figures without starting over, without starting from scratch, right? Without an MBA. And so in here you have, the 5 proven steps that I've basically kind of started walking you through right now, the career pivot playbook. So understanding everything you need to do to leverage your own existing skills. How do you identify them so that you can then pivot into that job, right? If you've been in teaching, you can pivot into customer success. If you've been in project management, you can pivot in product manager. If you've been in marketing, you can pivot into product marketing or growth marketing and so on. If you've been in more operational roles, you can go into performance marketing or op roles in there, right? There's a lot that you have to just understand what skill set that you have and how does it transfer to existing roles seamlessly in existing roles in startups, right? Then it's kind of understanding how to improve your resume, and it's also looking at your my own journey to help you out. The good thing here right now is that typically I sell this at around $197. Right now I'm having a promotion, so it's basically $97, right? So that's a pretty big discount there. So make sure you can actually just click on it, get the program. This is everything that I wish I had. I can even kind of walk you through in the back end. It's basically going to look like this. Let me move this because it's in my way. It's going to look like this. You're going to go into the portal. You're going to have all the different modules right here. Module 1, Module 2, Module 3. They're all there. You can go through it, and basically it's going to be kind of like, same kind of style teaching, going through LinkedIn, walking you through different things, giving you different playbooks. Sometimes I'm going to be, talking head, going through my iPad or kind of walking you through a document that I've created. Every single section is going to have a specific document that you can go back and reread at your own time. So, hey, I hope that this is, that you can see the power of this. This is basically everything I wish I would have had when I was starting out. And so you'll have that in your hand. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to ping me. But here you go. That's it. Looking forward to seeing you inside. Take care.